City podcast. Happy New Year's Day. It was not at Ashton Gate on January the 1st, 2024, because it finished Bristol City 0, Millwall 1. 21,700 people showed up there, 600 from Millwall, so 7,000 people decided to pay on the day. And I'd be interested to see how many of those will be back when we play Watford for the next home league game, which is 19 days away now. Joining me are regulars Mark and Ian. I'll start with you, Ian. I was utterly depressed at 10 to 5 yesterday. And, apoplectic about it. They did what City do so often. They dashed my expectations. I didn't expect them to raise it. It was Millwall, right? Third win in a row for them, by the way, under another young manager. But Ian, your thoughts on the game? Because I was, as I say, apoplectic.
I think we were all incredibly disappointed. We saw at Birmingham how difficult it is against a side who were at home and paid us the respect of sitting in against us as if we were a top 2, top 3 side. Obviously saw what we did at Watford when Watford decided to give us a game of football. And we more than gave Watford a game of football. And bearing in mind the teams that we've beaten were all 6th or 7th when we beat them. So they had the confidence to attack us, and that didn't go well for them. So this is what's going to happen. You've got Nigel Pearson's squad. And I'll include the academy players and the ones that he re-signed as being his signings, because if he didn't want to re-sign them, they'd have been gone. And we're trying to play a different style of football.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about that. I just want to get your initial thoughts coming away. So that's something that...
Well, the initial thoughts after the game was it was awful. But, we've seen awful games down there before. We've seen a lot in the last few years. So was I entirely surprised? No. And tiredness isn't an issue because they played the same number of games in the same time scale as we had.
Exactly. What were your thoughts, Mark? I mean, I stormed out the ground. That's the only word I can use to describe it. And I was cussing all the way back to my car, and it doesn't achieve anything. And you think, well, we've been here 50 odd years watching this, expectations raised. Birmingham, we thought, well, let's say a bit of a one-off. They needed that point, but Millwall, bit of a bogey side. We'd won there 1-0 early on in the season. Mark, what are your thoughts? I'm almost speechless. I've been wondering on it.
I wasn't entirely surprised because we knew what Millwall would come and do, which would be sit in and ask us to break them down, and we don't have the players to do that. We just don't have it, and we don't have anybody with physicality to get on the end of the ball and force things if we need to go to a different plan. We don't have players who can break the lines and carry the ball through midfield. We don't have players who can play with their backs to goal and bring players into play. So when we made the substitutions, there were never any match winners, but going against what Ian said, I think we did look very tired and we did look very flat. So much so that I thought that Millwall controlled the game in the second half, and we faded so badly that we were waiting for him to score.
I didn't say we weren't tired, Mark. We didn't look tired. I said there was no excuse to be tired.
Okay, no excuse. Yeah, I mean, I thought we looked
more tired. Why would we be more tired than Millwall?
Well, Graham Ford's just said here on the text. He said it was a very tired-looking team. This is a feeble excuse. It's like we were the only club that got into financial problems because of bloody COVID. Let's just face up to the fact that every team has to go through it, right?
Yeah.
We didn't extend ourselves against Birmingham. That's just the way the game went, yeah? And it was appalling, really.
Yeah, I mean, there just wasn't enough urgency. Players were very, very passive on the ball. There just wasn't the desire there. At times to want to make things happen. I mean, the second half, can you think of any chances? I mean,
no,
there was just absolutely nothing.
But when you say there's not the desire there, Mark, I mean, surely there should be the desire. We've got a manager who, in addition to saying we look dangerous without being dangerous, said, they got that winning habit of 3 wins in a row. You'd think on New Year's Day they'd be up for it. Big crowd, Yeah, admittedly, it was as quiet as the Emirates in there for most of the game. But that's the manager's job, is to make people up for it, isn't it?
Yeah, it should be. But I don't know whether it was in the face of Millwall's physicality, the weather, or whatever. You didn't have players who attempted to go forward. I mean, I think Sam Bell's run near the end, where his touch was too heavy. He pushed the ball on, and we were waiting for him to bear down on goal. His touch was too heavy; it almost took it out of play.
Yeah.
There just wasn't enough of that.
Yeah.
I mean, every time George Tanner got the ball, the game just stopped. He had no intention of going down the line. I think he made one inside pass to Vyman. That was the only thing he did in attack.
Yeah.
Every time he got the ball, he was looking for a pass back. It was just all very safe, very passive.
I mean, now Ian will take issue with there, Ian, because you've criticised me for criticising George Tanner, right? George Tanner, for the start of that game with the bloody out of control speedboat, as Chris Honor often calls him on here, he had nobody in front of him to pass to, did he? And that was the problem for Tanner. So what is he supposed to do?
I mean, you're expecting a right back to run the game. I don't think he was any worse yesterday. Well, Cam Pring was the best of the back four yesterday. At least he tried to get forward. He didn't add much in the final third. It's got to be said. But I looked at the side yesterday, and the first thing I said is I don't like Andy Vyman playing wide. My contention is he can't play there, and the manager should have learnt that by now. Where we got a lot of things wrong was in the midfield areas. There was not that many people. Well, there's nobody showing for the ball. Every time James, you talk about Tanner, every time James got it, he passed it sideways or backwards. There was nobody moving the ball forward. So Knight's making runs. I don't know what Andy Vyman was doing, because we play with our wingers tucked in, and that wasn't working. And if you put James and Williams in the same midfield, you'll get the same result, which is basically low tempo. Joe Williams has shown when he's in there with Taylor Gardner-Hickman, he can up his tempo. But once again, we all know Joe struggles to play 3 games in a week.
Yeah, but sorry to interrupt you. I have to say, Joe Williams didn't look like a player struggling to do that 3 games in a week, and he seems as though he's enjoyed a renaissance in his general play. Yeah, well, and is that indicative of a man that's out of contract in the summer who either wants one at Ashton Gate, or he's got people watching him to get a move maybe as early as January?
Well, both. The only thing that's going to cause Joe a problem is if he gets injured again, because people will look at his appearance rate over the last 3 or 4 seasons and find it ain't that great. And I was saying off air earlier on that one of the things that we've really got to look at, I mean, I've been banging on about injuries and amongst other things and playing 2 up top, and I've suggested, probably for later on, I've suggested we do that. But we can't have players at the club who are going to play 20, 25 games a season. It's just, you certainly can't rely on them. And if you're going to keep a small squad, and I think to all intents and purposes we are, then you've got to have a good fitness record.
All right.
And
okay, we get Mark's view on the team. I mean, I agreed wholeheartedly with Ian's comments just now and yesterday. When I saw, a Williams-James midfield, I thought this is not going to be particularly energetic and a lot of movement there. And the rationale is, you rest players. Yeah. Were you disappointed with the starting lineup? Did you expect more changes? It's called squad rotation, isn't it? Yeah. So would you have expected more, or left it as was?
The only change I expected was for Conway to come back in for Wales. We said that on the last podcast, and there probably was a reason why Sykes didn't start, because obviously that his injury later on was probably a reason why he wasn't 100% fit, and now he's not fit at all. So, but I didn't expect Garner-Hickman to go out. So yeah, that was a little bit surprising.
He's 22. He should be. He should be, of all of them, the one that can do it. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't really need to see the need, but I mean, obviously the manager sees the players, and he looks at them in training and can see who's not fully fit and who's coming up short. We just don't know, do we? I mean, they're not going to advertise the facts that players aren't fully fit, but I mean, they clearly weren't. And then, of course, during the game, you can see how many of those are off form. Nearly, well, probably all 11, I would imagine,
Yeah.
the way it turned out, just
Yeah.
very flat.
Yeah, Ian, take me through. This will be a short conversation. Take me through the highlights of the first half, then.
It's probably Jason Knight's header
Yeah.
from the corner that the keeper saved well. I can't think of anything else that we did particularly well. The other thing I'd comment on before I forget is that it's all very well playing one up top and having somebody like Tommy Conway that's mobile, and that worked pretty well at Watford because we played football, hoofing the ball forward against 6'5" centre halves. I mean, if you were managing a team against Millwall and you had the players together for a day before the game, you say, right, there's a couple of things we haven't got to do. We haven't got to concede many set pieces around the box, because if they get decent delivery, they got a couple of 2 or 3 wardrobes at the back that are going to come up, smash us out the way, and get headers. And we did that. And then we hit long, high, hopeful balls forward to Tommy. And when Tommy was replaced by Naki, we kept doing the same thing. So we reverted to type in a way. And if we're gonna do that, then we need a bigger physical presence up front. I would still play Tommy or Naki next to him, but that's the only thing I can say. The first half we were better than we were in the second, but I thought we were absolute tripe in both halves. Second half, I would give us, I don't know, 1 out of 10. I suppose the first half I'd give us 4 out of 10.
Bit harsh there, Mark. What were your thoughts? That was the only note that I made.
The only other thing that could have happened in the first half. I mean, Tanner made a great inside pass to Weimann. He's trying to hit it all in one go when he was so wide open. He had a chance to make a couple of touches and score. He tried to turn and shoot in the same instance and bloomed it wide when he had a lot more time, and it was a very good inside pass from Tanner, but that was it. I mean, the passing was so sloppy from side to side. I think there was a one great move from Mehmeti going across the midfield, and then there was an overlap on the right, and the final ball was poor, and it was just poor all the time. We tried to open up with the ball behind, when Viner and Dickey were getting the ball, they were looking up for runners, and there just weren't any. And it was back to the Norwich game, similar problems, and before that. I mean, we knew. I mean, that's why I wasn't getting carried away, and we weren't getting carried away. I was concerned that this would happen, and it did. This type of game, City just have trouble against these teams. They can't open teams up that are strong, physical, and sit in. But it was so poor yesterday. That was what it was. We didn't really give them. We didn't really give them a run for our money. We didn't get behind them at all.
Worse. We actually got worse.
Yeah. But they, like I said, they controlled the second half.
They did.
They largely controlled the second half, Millwall. No question about that. They played 5 yards further up the pitch. They were getting lots of crosses into the box, and we knew it's almost like you're breaking down the castle doors with a battering ram. Eventually, it was going to happen.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there, Mark. The second half, they were just getting stronger and stronger and stronger,
yeah.
And there was only one team in it,
Yeah.
And Ian, the second half, Mark mentioned earlier, and I think you described it as Sam Bell showed the touch of an elephant. I thought it took a little bit of a bobble as well, but that summed us up. Tommy was in a good position and could have got a shot away. It didn't, almost as though we were afraid to shoot. But then, a shape of things to come, I think Dickey headed off the line from Hutchinson. But to take us through the goal, I mean, we don't like conceding from set pieces, but the ball, if not leading up to the goal, in the corner that led to the goal, was bobbing round with bodies in the box. Nobody could clear it or get a wedge on it just to lamp it upfield. But how did you see the goal? Preventable? Who failed? Who didn't do their job?
Well, very. As I say, I thought the defence had done quite well up to then. apart from bringing the ball out, apart from Cam Pring, as I said earlier, well, we let a bloke with the turning circle of an HGV lorry turn in our penalty area 8 yards out and shoot into the bottom corner past an unsighted O'Leary.
Mm.
We didn't get close enough. Somebody didn't get in front of him. That's lack of courage. That's all that is. You get in front of him, you might get a kick, but you stop him turning. Because if he doesn't turn, all he can do is play the ball backwards.
All right, you just said there, Ian, just picking up a word you used there, you said lack of courage, right? Now, that's a character trait. Steve Taylor said on here, we need a sports psychologist. Tinian said we don't have one. We used to. We'll always fluff it when we're doing well. It's a mental thing. The fluff it bit is different. But that mental toughness and character, right? It's over on, he's scoring to the right side of the penalty area. So the players that you would, if you're going to point any fingers, you're talking Tanner and Viner there. Are you saying one of those should have faced up or thrown their bodies at it in some shape or form?
Zach should have been a yard closer to him. I mean, the bloke is 6'4", and he was allowed to. He picked the ball up back to goal, and he was allowed to turn and shoot. You don't get that much space. You shouldn't have that much space. Not, in midfield, yeah, but we did it. It's the same way we didn't when we pressed. We got our press completely wrong. Now, I was looking at physical differences between the players, and Tommy, it might surprise a few people to know, is 6'1". Now, the guy marking him is 6'4", 6'5". So height-wise, there isn't a massive difference, but the weight and the physicality of the player is incredible. Because when we played the ball to Tommy on the floor, he couldn't get there first and lay it off to somebody because the guy was coming through and winning the ball, I thought, fairly most of the time, but he was basically stronger than him. And there's not, when someone's bigger and stronger than you, that's why in boxing contests, you don't get a bloke my size fighting Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
So it was a physical mismatch. And obviously Naki is about 5'7", 5'6", 5'7". So it's not getting the best out of the players. Now that disappointed me with Mann. Somebody said on air, he didn't alter his tactics or his players. Perhaps he tried and the players just couldn't do it. I mean, you've got Nigel Pearson's squad and they're trying to convert to Manning ball. And I think, to be honest, this is until he's had a couple of windows. So this window coming and the summer one, we're going to find it difficult to see. And sometimes the wheels are going to come off.
All right. Okay. Well, Mark, I put as the header for this episode, season's over, isn't it, really? If you're a fan, we're the owners of things. What?
No, not at all. I mean, the club's got to develop. We want to finish in the top half of the football. The team's got to progress. There's going to be a turnover of players. The play's got to improve. Now the season's not over at all. We've got to finish as high up as possible, many games as possible. Simple as that. So no, its season's not over. I mean, just looking at the goal. I mean, the balls come out to the edge of the area. Number 8's just headed it back because we can't clear the ball. And there are 4 players between Hutchinson and the goal, and he's allowed to swivel on the penalty spot. And none of them, put their bodies on the line. They all look completely surprised that he's in that position, and then he hits it in. It's not O'Leary's fault, but there are 3 players between him and the goal, one by the side of him. And it's just an awful goal to concede, but it was coming because they had about 3 or 4 corners and recycled corners, and we couldn't even get the ball out. That was the problem. If you can't clear the ball, you just leave yourself under constant pressure. It reminded me a bit of the Preston goal. We didn't clear the ball. Player, in the box again is allowed to turn. Once you allow a player to turn, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And a defender like that shouldn't be allowed to turn. Like Ian said, turning like an articulated lorry, wouldn't he, really? But it'd be still allowed to turn and shoot. He hadn't scored for 4 years, by the way. So that tells you a lot.
Well, yeah, and if he's going to score against anybody, it's usually us. We always seem to be the bloody patsy. Mark, sticking with you on that point, it's good. Andy King made the squad. Yeah, would you have brought him on late on, maybe just as a fresh pair of legs? Even though he probably can't do more than 20 minutes at full pelt, would you have brought him on?
Don't think it would have made a lot of difference, really. Obviously, Manning didn't see that is adding to the creativity. I mean, I think the problem we got with our team is because we've got lots of small players. It relies on playing the ball at pace, and we don't do that. Pass and move very quickly. We don't do that. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And you take Semenyo and Scott out that team. You don't have players who can play with a bat to goal and break lines as well. That's what we really lack, and that's why we can't beat teams like that.
Ian, you mentioned one of the youngsters that the manager, I heard this on Radio Bristol last night, that the manager could have on. I don't know if he was on the bench. And what was it? Is it Meerholtz? I mean, what was it about him that you think he could add to the matchday squad?
Well, believe it or not, for a young man, he's got some physicality. He's quick and he's strong and he's a midfield player. Now, if you look at our midfield players, you've got who else can play in there besides the ones yesterday? You've got Cal Naismith, who's had a setback, so we might not see him until
March,
February. Yeah, I mean, possibly he's had a setback now. How bad that setback is, but he's got a hamstring injury. So having a hamstring injury and then having a setback is we've having a setback is bad news when you've already got a serious injury. And when I say a serious injury, I don't mean a season ender or anything like that. But I think something is going to keep you out for a couple of months normally.
Yeah.
So I think that we are. I think we haven't got a lot of choices in that position. Like I say, you've got Naismith and King. Both have been out with hamstring injuries. Is Andy King going to make a huge difference over Matty James or Joe Williams? I wouldn't have thought so on what I've seen so far. I'm not saying he's not a decent player, but let's be honest, in football terms, he's getting on a bit. The best of his career is definitely behind him, not in front of him. So we look to do something moving forward. But Sykes apparently had a tight hamstring. Sykes had a tight.
Manning didn't know.
Hang on. Sykes had a tight hamstring yesterday, so I think it was largely precautionary, and hopefully he hasn't aggravated it and he'll be okay. I mean, I'm looking more to the next league game, and I understand that Ross McCrory will be available to be in the squad for the Preston game as well.
Well, that'll be a good thing if it is. Mark, we had on the field yesterday at various times the best of what we've got up front. Vyman, Sykes, Cornick, Conway, Wells, Mehmeti and Bell. They all featured yesterday, right? The answer isn't there at the moment. Some people were criticising Manning that he always seems to make the same substitutes, which, you know, at the same stage of the match, he never changes it up front. But do you think any of those 7 players that I've mentioned there, do you think any of those 7 might find themselves departing from Ashton Gate in January? And I'm just picking up on a comment that was it Andreas has set up here. Picking up on what I said. Season definitely not over. Maybe that was a bit extreme. January is key for us as a club and the direction Manning wants to go. But those forwards, Mark, is it that we've got the right forwards, but we're not playing them in the right combination? What do you think?
To be quite honest, I think it makes a lot of difference if they don't get the ball. The only player I think could go out on loan because of his lack of quality is Harry Cornick. I mean, when he came on yesterday, virtually anonymous. It can't hold on to the ball. I think the only thing he can do, and he didn't do yesterday, was as effective as his long throw occasionally, and that was only at the start of the season. So I think he's he's a player I could see going out on loan if a club would take him, but that's about it. But I don't see real problems with the other players. I mean, Vyman, has got a chance to speak to foreign clubs now. He's coming to the end of his contract. I don't think, Naki Wells is perhaps we may have seen the best of Naki Wells. Injuries have got in the way, so we haven't really seen him play himself into form this season, although he's a decent runner of the lines. I think Andy's is in front of him in terms of a likely departure. But the one in January, I'd say Harry Cornick out of those is the only one. But you still want a player to come in for him. I think you could get me. Making an improvement on Harry Cornick wouldn't be difficult. But it's been able to do some trade. We know. I think. What we're looking at, I think with John Lansdowne said we want to bring an attacking midfield player, didn't he? At the Q&A, the senior Reds, and I think there may be a left-sided player as well that we're looking at. Don't know, but yeah, Harry Cornick, I'd get rid of him in a flash.
You get rid.
Hopeless player. Yeah, sorry.
What about the Mehmeti experiment? I mean, Manning's shown faith in a player that Nigel Pearson, who bought him, clearly didn't rate because he wasn't even including him in the starting lineup. He did do one bit of defensive cover in the second half, which I thought you stuck with it. But he doesn't have that physicality, and he's not strong. He makes Callum O'Dowda look defensively strong. Mehmeti does, and he's not got the physicality to get past players in the final third. Do you think we take offers for him, or do you think Manning wants to persist down that route?
I think he wants to persist and see what he's like for the rest of the season. Yeah, he does lack physicality, so he's going to have to work on the defensive side of his game, no question. Otherwise, he becomes a liability when he loses the ball. Puts the man behind him, Pring, under a lot of pressure. He gets dragged along like he does. But I think he showed enough in the last few games to show that he has drastically improved, but he needs space in front of him to run into. When we're playing the ball very slowly from side to side, and Millwall had us where they wanted us yesterday, wherever we were on the pitch, because of the pace of our ball was just so slow. So I don't think he was any worse than the rest, really.
Right.
So I think we keep playing him. But who else is there that we play on the left? Sam Bell, right-footed player on the left. I think is the only player that could come in. He's got the same defensive problems as Mehmeti.
Yeah. Ian just saying to Mark, 7 forwards. I don't think we've got any forwards injured at the moment. Have we? Have we got any forwards that are injured that would be Benarouz midfielder?
No, I think looking at our forwards, what disappoints me with players like Anis Mehmeti and Sam Bell is when they get a run on players, they don't keep going. They all lack the confidence to go forward. It really disappoints me, because you think the one thing we could do with Sam, Tommy had an opportunity yesterday to run in between two central defenders onto a misplaced pass. Didn't have the pace to get past them. And that just because these are young blokes that you think and are allegedly quite quick. And I don't think they are. They don't seem particularly quick. It's just a confidence to say, right, I'm going to do it. And you're not going to do it all the time. I mean, blimey, Mo Salah don't do it all the time. He's pretty good, isn't he? So, but it's that, you're not going to be, if you want to play very quickly in transition. The example of a club that does that would be somebody like Villa or Liverpool, where they go from one end of the pitch in seconds. That's something we don't do because we don't have that passing ability. And do you know what? We're saying about the players we need, it wouldn't surprise me that if we sign 2 midfield players, but we definitely need some more left-sided players.
There we go. Yeah, and Ian,
it doesn't help that we've got a lot of left-sided players injured. We've got Hayden Roberts, Rob Atkinson, and Cal Naismith, all left-sided.
Yeah.
The one Atkinson 6'4", 6'3.5", if you will. Cal Naismith 6'1", and all right, Hayden Roberts is 5'9", but that balance is sadly lacking. And I think I I know the modern trend is to invert your wingers, but I like wingers with chalk on their boots and somebody on the right wing, like Sykes, and I think he's our most effective wide player, that are playing on that side of the field. Simple as that.
I mean, I don't think any of those. All right, no, let me rephrase that. This young lad that we're signing from Ireland, Ian Murphy,
Yeah,
the Irish name, is Adam Murphy. I think it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Adam Murphy. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Where does he play? And is he a club in the bag, or is he somebody that would threaten Mehmeti and Bell?
Initially, he's been bought for the development squad. He's not a wide player. He's a central midfield player. He has played holding, but he's more of a central midfield player that looks forward. I mean, he's only 18.
All right.
So he's been bought.
He's one for the future.
Yes, I would say so. But then again, we thought Alex Scott was one for the future, and all of a sudden he became one for now because we needed to play him out of sheer desperation. So, and he came in and did really well, and the rest is history. So, and that's a little bonus we could get in the summer, because if he keeps playing as well as he is for Bournemouth, I can see one of the bigger clubs saying, "Well, we'll have a little punt on this lad for 30 or 40 million."
If
that's
they
the
have
sort
a
of thing
punt
they
for
do.
40 million, then we'd be in for 20. We get about 4 million quid for that, wouldn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, 20% of
15
the profit.
million.
Yeah. So
4 million quid.
Yeah, and then you've got a chance if Burnley got relegated. There's a lot of talk about Brownhill staying in the Premier League, moving on somewhere.
And what happens to Lloyd Kelly? Lloyd Kelly's injured at the moment, isn't he, at Bournemouth?
Lloyd Kelly's out of contract in the summer, and it's said that he's got a move lined up to Italy, but I don't know if that's true. That's just from decent, well-informed people. So they're talking about Italy, but he's out of contract, so we wouldn't get anything out of that.
Yeah. I mean, Tim Monaghan said to me, he said, from one recruiter to another, I didn't know you did recruiting, Tim. I'm looking for a bright young person to come in because I'm not getting any younger. There you go. I don't know what you do. But he said, we need to believe only a small will run away from the playoffs. If you don't have hope, what do you have? I still think we can nick sixth. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the hope that kills watching Bristol City, Tim. I don't know how old you are, but I said to the Tim Capel, the Eurosport guy who came with me to the game yesterday, I said, God, this is New Year's Day games. This was, what was it, New Year's Day 1968. I was into my second year. That's 56 years ago. And it's that hope. If you didn't have the hope, right, I wouldn't still be going after 56 years, yeah? But as it's great that we played so well at Watford, that was a real startling performance. But, as Ian said, Pearson lost 5 out of his last 7, and he was lucky to win the 2 that he won. Somebody put on one of the social media platforms the other day, we were lucky to get a win against Sunderland and scraped it against Hull. So, quid pro quo. And it picks up on what Tomo said here. Manning's had 11 games now, 15 points for 11 games, 1.3 per game. There's been no real improvement so far on Pearson's stats. So when I said the season's over, Ian, that was prompted by you, Ian, saying 2 windows to get it right. We are, once more, a work in progress. And okay, so maybe Nigel wasn't going to get us there because we weren't progressing enough, but we're still in that there or thereabouts of the playoffs. We're not going to be flirting with relegation this season because I think we are good enough to
we're 15 points clear of relegation.
There you go. So, and that's what I'm saying. So we're playing.
But it's somebody else has said on here, 5 games picked up 10 points. That's 2 points a game.
Yeah.
So I can't remember us doing that often. I can't just remember having this many points at this juncture in the season. We're normally looking over our shoulders. So we've got in between the 1st of January and the 2nd of Feb, we've only got 4 league games. So tiredness goes out the window. The West Ham game, many people are saying, you've said it yourself, Dave, it's a free hit. And in the sense, it is, in the sense that no one's expecting us to win. So it'd be the most City thing in the world to do to go up and win. But I'm more worried about, I'd rather we lost that one and beat Preston and then won the next home game. Is that Watford, next home game?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd rather we did that because that's the priority. The priority is for this club to get in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Purely for financial
reasons. And with the best will in the world, with clubs coming down each league, we're always going to be doing that via the playoffs because odds on that a club that gets relegated, more than one club that gets relegated, will probably be in the top two, as it looks like it will be this season. Mark, the transfer window is now open. Yeah.
Hooray.
Hooray. McCrory, for me, is the player that I want to see. It will be like a new signing.
Yeah.
Ian said about left-sided players, target men up front. Even yesterday, the inference on Radio Bristol was that big target man or that physical presence. Is there anybody out there that you cast your eyes on, not only up front, but in any of the positions where we need that we've got a hope in hell of getting? Never mind who we like, because we like Pritchard, don't we? And Bannon at Sunderland and Sheffield Wednesday, respectively. But, are we going to get... I mean, Tim said to me yesterday, he said it'd be good to get a marquee signing, experienced player that is towards the end of his career. But I said, that's not going to happen down here. We're not going to get that sort of player.
To be quite honest, I just don't know. I mean, you can get what we did with Harry Cornick last year was sign a player who was going to be out of contract at the end of last season, and of course, because he was on low wages, they would tempt him. So you could do that. So there are probably irons in the fire there. But I think otherwise we're shopping in League One. I can't see us subsidising being able to afford a Premier League youngsters' wages. Just don't think we can afford to do that, and of course we can't afford anybody else from the Premier League either, unless a club would substantially subsidise the wages. Whether they want to do that, I don't know. I think that's unlikely. So I think it's players who are likely to be out of contract. Maybe the odd loan signing, like a Taylor Garner Hickman, but that's going to depend on players going out as well. So I just don't know. I mean, the player I wanted last season, strangely enough, and I think that was just pot luck. I like the look of Jason Knight last season, what he was doing at Derby, and I could see him fitting in very well. And I didn't have a clue that we were after him. I just liked the player and thought he would fit us very well. And he was at Derby. He was definitely within our price range, and we got him. I don't think we'll be spending a couple of million on a player in January from League One. People have talked about, I think, Brannigan at Oxford, but I think he's probably too old and that ship sailed. I think maybe there's another Oxford midfielder that maybe a little bit better.
Mark.
Yes, what I mean.
Brannigan's 27.
Yeah, I said he's 27, so I don't think he's good.
You just said he's too old.
Well, no, I just think he doesn't suit. I don't think he suits what we're looking at. So I just don't know. I mean, I think it's likely to be players in the Harry Cornick mould or coming to their end of their contract. A championship
and then it's hit and hope, really, because look, let's be fair, exactly. Harry Cornick and Anis Mehmeti, we spent a couple of million in total.
I don't think we won't just bring bodies in for it. We won't bring bodies in for the sake of it. We won't just bring bodies in.
Gardner's made a very good point on here. We're going round in circles, and you're absolutely right, Nadine. I mean, we've been chatting for 40 minutes, and we're struggling. We're struggling what to talk about, really. Not what to talk about, but we are literally going round in circles because the loan market we're not going to subsidise. We're talking about shopping in League One, and Knight. I'll ask you this question here: should Manning be building a team around? Let's get the facts here, not facts, or some strategy. Should we be building a team around Manning in midfield? Sorry, Manning. A team around Knight in midfield, right? A Viner-Dickey partnership, and then Tommy up front and say, with Max in goal, and that's the spine of your team. Max in goal, Viner Dickey combo with Atkinson backing up, Knight in midfield, Conway up front. There you go.
I don't think you've necessarily got the strongest spine. A couple of things. It depends how you want to play. We know that Manning favours a possession style football. We know that the owners want us to play attacking front foot football, which in the last 2 games, let's face it, we haven't done. Okay, one was away, and that, I mean, it didn't surprise me that Birmingham sat in because, I mean, they got beat again yesterday. I think they're down to 20th now, and the natives are extremely restless.
Yeah.
So that didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me how Millwall played, but it did surprise me that we didn't have a plan for getting around it. So the players, there's no mystery. The players we're going to sign are going to be from League One primarily, not so much League Two, or they're going to be out of contract players in the Championship in the main. I don't think there's a huge focus. Well, I know there's not a huge focus abroad. The
That's worrying, Ian. I have to say that's worrying that we're not extending our scouting capability.
Well, I didn't say we weren't looking, but I don't think we're going to do a huge amount of business abroad. And when you look at our signings from abroad, and I mean from foreign clubs, they've been a bit hit or miss, and we've had some real stinkers. And we've had some good ones as well. Like Fam was a good signing, Jonathan Kodja. But I think
Pisano wasn't bad at fullback. Eros,
he was okay. He was another one that was injured a lot, though, wasn't he?
He was.
So
there was a big lump up front that we had that was injured as well. Milan Juric
signed injured, stayed injured. Same with Adam Naj, and very expensive. So which we found out when we came to pay his contract off. No, I think it's mainly going to be from that pool. We won't be signing any form of lump up front. It can't be a head on a stick. They're looking for somebody who's probably a bit younger, but has got skill and movement. So there are players that are like that, but you couldn't, for example, go down to Bournemouth and get Kiefer Moore because he's earning around 60 grand a week.
He turned down Millwall early in the season as well, didn't he? He had a loan lined up, and they turned him down, didn't they?
Ian, if you want to do a little bit of trading, using Kiefer Moore as an example, bearing in mind that Bournemouth still owe us money for Scott, you could have some arrangement where his wages were subsidised out of advance payments that are due on Alex Scott. If we wanted to go down that route.
If that's the player that you want, and players like that are dead handy in both penalty areas, aren't they? Let's be honest. And we do look. I mean, when you see the teams shaking hands before the game, it looks like a scene out of Land of the Giants, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got a job to differentiate between some of our players
and the mascots.
And the mascots.
And the mascot.
But
Mark,
I think
Thomas,
you're going to.
Liam Leeds.
We know how he wants to play.
Yeah,
and he'll sign players that have got the capability of doing that, and that may not include a lot of the ones that we currently have.
But Liam leads towards technical players who won't just buy a lump. Any new striker.
Exactly that.
More than
they put technical players that can run. The
Mark,
other thing that'll be interesting.
Al Hamidi from Wimbledon.
I haven't got a clue. I think it's somebody that we've looked at, a centre forward, but I don't really know too much about him. I mean, if he's as a player in League Two, is he scoring lots of goals? I mean, don't really know about him. I mean, he was playing from last season. They got relegated. That would be a bit of a punt, wouldn't it? If we were going for somebody from a League Two team. Don't really know much about him. The player I'm looking forward to seeing coming in is Ross McCrory, because of course the other thing
Well,
he'll do
we're
is add.
pinning all our hopes on Ross McCrory.
Well, he'll add height as well, so be good at set pieces. He's 6'2", so as a that will be a different dimension
what
to our
about
play.
Ian, do you know Matt Moore said no one has looked at Langstaff, probably Longstaff at Notts County.
Yeah, Macaulay Longstaff. Yeah, we have looked at him. Al Hamidy's been linked with us for the last 2 seasons, to my knowledge. But the only thing that I think might go against that is that I don't think our relationship with Wimbledon is that great after the kerfuffle over when we tried to sign Curry as the left back in the January transfer window, where we finished up getting Cornick and Mehmeti. So, who, by the way, cost nothing like 2 million. They haven't cost us $1 million yet between.
No, I overstated that, Ian. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot
of
them
$1 million combined.
I wouldn't even say that, Dave, because that'll include add-ons, and the way Mehmeti's playing, he'll be out of here before anybody gets any add-ons or anything else. But yeah, I mean, we know the way that Manning wants to play. He's told us how he wants to play. The board have said how they want to play, so that's all been clearly communicated. It just in the last couple of games, I think Manning's used the right word. We haven't been brave enough. He is, and just to divert, somebody said something I mentioned the other day. Said Palmer Holden is a big target man. I wouldn't be surprised to see him brought back because he can play football. Now, I still think the answer is, even if we did that, the answer is playing a 2. With what we have, unless we need to sign a really different player. Another point Alan Page's made about Liam Rosenior bringing in players from Burnley. Hull are paying a lot of money for players, and that's how come they got Scott Twine as well. And he was said to be available at 2.5 million, and we were interested. We weren't, but the fee this come back to me from somebody at Burnley said it's not 2.5, it's 4.5. Because that's what they paid for him. So, and then you've got to look at it's the wages that are the killer thing. And those guys at Burnley will be earning big money. Yeah. They've been in the Premier League
Ian, I think
a couple of times.
I think the thing is, and Dave, picking up on something that Dave Fevs said, and we've said on this podcast probably back in September, October time, the sort of player, the sort of money that we need to be spending to get a bit better than what we've got, right, is the Jason Knight type of player, the best of the best in League One. And where the wages aren't so much of a problem, but the best of the best in League One is going to cost what Jason Knight costs. And we're talking 1.5 to 2 million quid. Do you agree with that, Mark? That to get, shop in League One, but let's get the best of the best at that level where our wages will make a difference. And then we're only going to lose out there if another club in the Championship says, oh, we got an eye on him. We'll gazump you by paying $4,000 a week more than Bristol City. We know what their maximum is. That's really what we should be doing. I mean, my view is I'd sooner spend nothing in this window and persevere with what we've got than go and spend $500,000 here and 750,000 there.
Yeah, I think you can. I think you could get the best from League One. Well, Steve Cottrell did it, didn't he, in the summer of 2014? But I think you're only going to get them at the end of the season because those clubs don't want to let players go. I mean, I don't think he'd come to us, but probably one of the best centre forwards in League One is Dion Charles. That sort of player.
Playing for
Bolton. There's decent players at Portsmouth who are doing well. The front players.
Peterborough.
Peterborough. But and the good thing about Peterborough is, and why people keep buying their players, is Peterborough play football, don't they? Yeah. So their players can slot into teams at a higher level, and they've been doing it for donkey's years, which is a big credit to them, really. And they know they're a selling club because
here's a really outrageous.
You won't get them to the end of the season, David. You want to get the best of the best. They won't be available now.
Here's a really outrageous suggestion, right? And I think a certain other club that we won't mention, we're going to pay 800,000 quid for this bloke, right? So, and Darren McAnthony, he likes to do a deal. He likes to think he's a bit like his dad, Barry Fry, or they got the same mentality. But if somebody said to you, and I'll get laughed off the screen with this.
No, it's saying his dad, Barry Fry, that made me laugh.
I'll get Mark's view as well, because Ian's going to shoot me down with this. All right.
Well, give him a chance, David.
Phone up Darren McAnthony at Peterborough and say, look, we'll give you Anish Mehmeti and Harry Cornick, and you give us, what's his name? Clark Harris, right?
Yeah.
Would we be any worse off getting rid of those two and bringing him in? Because he's a lump.
So.
Huh?
Yeah, well, he's not just a lump. He scores goals, and he's got a little bit about him. I don't
Johnson
think
Clark
he's
Harris it is, isn't it? That's the guy I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he scores goals, but he's only scored goals at that level. So in a way, it's a gamble. But so was Mehmeti and Cornick.
Yeah. So
if you said to me tomorrow,
say bye, see ya, don't want to be here.
I don't think Peterborough would take that deal. I mean, at the moment, the player he's bigging up a lot is this winger that I can't bring his name to mind. We were linked with. They've got a winger up there, very quick, and he's tearing up trees. Once again, according to Darren McAnthony, who's obviously trying to flog him. But he'd be a player that we would be more interested in, more to fit into the Liam Manning style. Nadine Gardner, does different mean big? No, it does mean bigger and stronger than what we've got. It does mean physicality. But if you've got a guy who's, say, I don't know, 26, 27 and goes about 12 stone and is 6'2", but he's got to be able to play football. We're not gonna go out and turn ourselves into Wimbledon, where you've got the 3 6'5" blokes up front and we're pinging the long diagonal.
And that's not Manning. That's not Manning's way of playing.
No,
although
it's not the way he wants. It's not the way he wants to play.
Yeah, as you said, Ian. Though yesterday he was reverting to lump ball to Tommy Conway, who's can't beat.
He wasn't. The players were.
All right,
and that's what I call reverting to type. They've done that for the last 2.5 years, Dave. You can't suddenly expect them to say, look, I've done that for 2.5 years, but now I've decided that I'm Bobby Moore and I'm going to play it to feet and I'm going to have 100% pass accuracy. I mean, Zach tried a few long diagonals, which normally he'll hit reasonably well, but he smashed them straight out of play. And that summed up our approach. Rob Dickey hit some misplaced passes, and he's a good passer of the ball, Rob. So, but you shouldn't have to rely on your central defenders. If you look at touches and pass accuracy, normally it's our central defenders that are right up there. Now that tells a tale in itself. And if you look at the game yesterday, where we went wrong, if you look at passes forward, we only had slightly more passes forward than Millwall, and we only had 10 touches in the opposition box. That's where we went wrong. It was in the final third, and with our tempo.
Let's wrap it up with a couple of moments. Mark, are you going to the London Stadium at the weekend?
No. I've set my eye off the ball that week, and then of course all the tickets went. So no, I'll have to find a feed.
Ian,
It probably will be available somewhere.
Yeah, Ian, you're going, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm up there in the posh seats, Dave. It's a sure sign that you're getting older when your daughter says, "I'll tell you what, I'll take you to the football, Dad." So her company that she works for has got a great relationship with the West Ham United Foundation. So we'll be up there in a place called, I think it's called the Forge. And apparently it's very nice. And we'll be sat in the seats.
Well, you have to be on your best behaviour when you're up there, Ian. I mean, it's interesting.
We're sat in the seats we're behind the dugout. So they're really good seats.
Yeah, it's still probably about a mile from the pitch. I've never been there, but it doesn't look as though it's the most enclosed.
It's actually the view said to be quite good, but I think it'll be good actually, because I knew a few of the
Well, it's your. I mean,
older
listen.
West.
I when I saw the cup draw was made. I mean, my son-in-law, stepson-in-law, he lives about 4 miles from the ground, so it would be an excuse to maybe to go up there that weekend. But I just didn't fancy it myself, and I think we're in danger. This is us, little old Bristol City. Oh, it's our big day out. It's our cup final, and 9,000.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, we travel in number as well, don't we? Away from home.
Do, but it's
I
like
think the thing is they made the good thing is
for-
they made it so attractive, haven't they? I mean,
Yeah.
10 quid a ticket. Well done,
awful,
West Ham.
awful place to get to, though.
I wouldn't care for that. Those prices, I think that's brilliant. What
Well,
they've done.
Now you've got you wouldn't want to drive there, but now you've got
No.
that the Queen Elizabeth line, is it?
Hardly ever
this
works at
apparently is-
weekends, Ian, the Elizabethan line, I have to say. It is pretty erratic. I've used it about
So you
twice.
just got to get the DLR out there, have you?
Well, you've got to get the DLR. Yeah, I think it's Pudding Pie Lane. Don't get off at Stratford and have to walk through the shopping centre, because apparently you'll not be allowed to. You'll be routed. And it's going to be fun. 9,000 Bristolians walking to the game with a lot of West Ham fans and what have you. So I hope the police will be out there in numbers. I mean, look, I hope we get a win. I was reading Alan Dix's book, and that cup run of 73, 74. Can't believe that's 50 years ago that we had the famous win.
Too long.
Over Leeds. That kept him in a job. No fear of any manager in Bristol being under threat at the moment. And I mean, it's interesting. David Moyes, he's out of contract in the summer, and only recently, I was listening on Talk Sport, have they talked about giving him a 2.5 year contract. So only now are they talking about it. And that's a guy who won them a bloody trophy last season. So
Yeah, incredible.
all the Pearson lovers, look, at the end of the day, he did do a lot of good stuff, but we were treading water, as Ian would say. 15 games a season, 15 wins a season for 3 seasons. It's treading water.
It took Pearson about 14 games to win a home game, didn't it?
I know,
because he didn't
win one. It's not a free hit, is it? Is it a chance? Do you think we will look playing Manning ball should suit us against a first division? Manning ball should adapt well against technically superior opposition, shouldn't it?
Yes, and you can bet your life West Ham aren't going to sit in. So they'll try and dominate the ball. A lot depends on the strength of the team that they select. Bearing in mind, they're still in the European competition. They're 6th in the Premier League, West Ham?
Yeah, they dragged themselves up, haven't they? Really well.
Doing really well. If they put out their best side, then on paper they should absolutely murder us, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
If they decide they're going to chop and change, like they recently put out a team against Liverpool at Anfield and got stuffed 5-1, and the way they defended that day, I mean, Tommy and our forwards would have a field day, because they were so high up the pitch, and the tackles weren't really going in, and players that had a chance to impress and get in the first team didn't. I mean, Jared Bowen scored a great goal, and he's a menace, but hopefully they won't start him. But then again, if they don't start him, they'll start Danny Ings, and he ain't bad, is he? So, they're a much bigger club, much bigger stadium. It is, to an extent, a day out. The walking around up there before the game, it's not like it was, I don't know, 20 years ago, 10 years ago even, in terms of various forms of fisticuffs and running around, although I dare say a bit of that will go on. But no, I think we can go up there and give a really good account of ourselves. Now, you imagine if we went up there and we won it, the publicity would be amazing. It should get the players playing out of their skin. And then, because Manning can say to them, look, if you guys think, especially the younger ones, you want to play in the Premier League, right, you're playing a Premier League team. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
It's not...
Well, put yourself in the shop window. Put yourself in the shop window like Alex Scott has done Alex Scott has done, and as you said a moment ago, Ian, you know, he's adapted. I think he came on as a sub, scored the goal, had one disallowed, 13 touches, found his passes with all of them, I think, you know, and he's captured that imagination. And if you're Tommy Conway, particularly, and some of these younger players, Cam Pring, you go out there and do it. I mean, we are into replays at this stage, aren't we? Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. What's this? The first
draw,
third round, isn't it?
Look, if we get a draw, that'd be fantastic. Get them back to Ashton Gate, under the lights, get a win, get into the fourth round, easy draw, get through to the fifth round. I'm being serious now. That type of season would take away some of the, you know, we're going nowhere, some of the depression that I'm showing. If we have a good cup run and we got to, I mean, Christ, you know, 1974 was the sixth round. We got to the quarterfinals. You know, we were
we haven't been there since. No,
rubbish in the league. I mean, read, anybody who hasn't read the Alan Dix book, read it. It's great because everything that I've been reading, I was there. I saw it all, 67 through to 76. Absolutely brilliant read. But 73, 74 season, we were doing rubbish in the league. Worse than we're doing now in the same division.
Yeah, we actually did. I think we did well in the first half of the season, then we fell away in 16.
Absolutely right. Yeah, but then we had the game against Hereford, which we drew, won a replay, I think, and then it was the Leeds game.
Well, we played Hull in the third round.
We did. Sorry, Hull.
We won a replay.
Liverpool, decent cup run. That'll buy time to adapt to what we're seeking to achieve, which is a different style of football. And I say, Tim, who came with me to the game yesterday, he said we are playing different style of football, and as Ian has said, we're trying to play a different style with players that have played a particular way for 2.5 years. So maybe we just got to suck it up, and maybe, as somebody said on one of the feeds on here today, don't get too high with the highs, and don't get too low with the lows.
Yeah,
and that's right. I mean, maybe I should take a leaf out of that and not be as I say, depressed as I was walking out of the ground.
Don't slash your wrists, mate.
No, I'm not going to do that. I did. I told you this. I did get a clarinet for Christmas, right? And in the space of a week, right, I've gone from looking an absolute twat, not being able to play a note, that I can play the opening few lines of When the Saints Go Marching In, which, being a City fan, ain't much cop for me. But I will be giving a solo on playing a clarinet when I feel it's right and proper for me to do so without coming across as a twat. Although a lot of people probably think I'm that.
And we'll all look forward to that with bated breath, Dave.
All right, okay. Time to get back to work.
Dave on his clarinet, ladies and gentlemen.
Mark, we're doing the podcast for the West Ham game Monday tea time. Is that right, Ian?
Yeah, about 6 o'clock. So I got a chance to get back from staying in Bedfordshire.
Get you back down from London. So we'll have had a chance to reflect on it, and we won't know what the fourth round draw is, but we may not be participating in that anyway. Anyway,
we might not
happy New Year, Ian and Mark. Happy New Year, everybody. Once again, thanks for your support. Record number of downloads in December of approaching 9,000 over a 30-day period, which I know we've been banging out the podcasts over this, but that's pretty damn good. So Ian and Mark, the two regulars on here, you're all part of that, as are some of the other people that come on, notably Neil Sutts and Dave Fevs as well. So happy New Year, everybody, and let's look on the bright side, perhaps. All the best. Cheers now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good luck, everybody. Bye-bye. Happy New Year.